Today I begin a series of messages we're going to call Dragons of the Mind. Those dragons of the mind that we all have, they come in various sizes and shapes. They are things like fear and worry and anger and guilt and inner turmoil, shame, bondage, resentments, bitterness, unforgiveness, and doubt. Now, I could go on all year long with this stuff, but I'm not going to do that. But we're going to begin a series, though, on Dragons of the Mind. And I've got some help from Hollywood to show you if you don't know what a dragon is.
There you are, thief in the shadows.
I did not come to steal from you. O Smaug, the unaccessibly wealthy.
I merely wanted to gaze upon your magnificence, to see if you really were as great as the old tales say. I did not believe them.
Do you now? Did you think I did not know this day would come? That a pack of canting doors would come crawling back to the mountain?
Was that an earthquake?
That's my land. Was a dragon.
Dragon is a mythical monster. There are no dragons in the world except in our imagination. They look like great winged dinosaurs with huge claws that breathe fire and lightning, and dragons are nasty fellows who inhabit our minds. Now, I don't know where the stories of dragons got started, but back in the Middle Ages when knights roamed the countryside looking for wrongs to right and evils to end, and dragon stories were commonplace, and many were the tale of young damsels in distress and brave young knights who would overcome tremendous odds to slay the evil menace and bring the young woman to her family again. We've had a number of movies over the years, and clear back in the 70s and stuff like that. There was one called Dragon Slayer that came out. Then, not too long ago, probably the last 15 years, Dragonheart came about, and that one had Sean Connery being the voice of the dragon. Many other stories of dragons and maidens and knights and seeking fortune and glory. There's even a modern version of that knight, you might say. He's not really in shining armor, but they went against the dragons that were destroying the world, and it's called Reign of Fire. And I have a good picture of a dragon, not in a good mood. Not having a very good day. Neither was anybody that was in front of him. Today I want to start a series of messages on things that haunt us and which are not mythical monsters, but they are dragons of the mind, which are far worse than any imagined fire-breathing beast. You know, we deal with dragons of the mind all the time. And we lose the battles to these dragons because we don't live in the present. There's probably somebody here and you feel guilt of something that happened yesterday or maybe clear back in your childhood, while somebody else here is worried about something that will happen tomorrow or in the future. And what happens is we fail to live in the present, and a large fire-breathing dragon looms over us, blocking our fulfillment in some area of our life. as one of God's peoples. Our greatest enemy to living our lives today, living fully in the present, is our tendency to live in another time rather than the present, because the pathway to living fully today is blocked by a huge fire-breathing beast, dragons of the mind. You and I have areas in our lives that we would really like to get to because we know that that particular area holds a great promise for us, but the roads into that area of our lives are guarded by dragons, and they are dragons of the mind, and we are scared to death of these dragons. In order for us to live fully in the present, we have to take all those things that are dragons in our minds, and they must be conquered. Dragons like fear and doubt, guilt, anger, resentment, bitterness, despair, bondage to things in our past, and they are dragons that guard the roads in our minds that lead to fulfillment and lead to health in terms of who we are. Today, I begin with probably the greatest dragon of the mind of all time, and that dragon is the dragon of fear, and the dragon of fear actually has two heads. I've got this cover here of a dragon, and if you'll notice that dragon has two heads on it. One head answers to the name of fear, but the other head answers to the name of worry or anxiety. Anybody here worry about anything? The head named fear is the dragon head that reacts to something that can be identified, like the fear of losing your job or the fear of cancer or something like that. The other head is anxiety or worry. And this head of the dragon is the head that watches the road for something that is hidden out there and can't really be brought into focus. Worry. So worry is fear that is really undefined. When someone asks you, what are you afraid of? And you answer, I really can't get a handle on it. I really don't know. Then you're dealing with anxiety. Unnamed worries. This double-headed dragon of fear and worry can stand at the crossroads of your life, and we can live in fear that we will be eaten if we get too close to it, or if we try to get past it into our future and the places we need to go to find fulfillment in living. And just kind of stands there and blocks the path. Today I want to talk to you about this dragon of fear and identify it for you. Now, I don't have time enough to help you kill it, but I will give you hope that it can be dealt with. We will attack this dragon probably at another time. Today I want to get acquainted with this dragon and raise up hope that with God's help, we can be involved in the slaying of the dragon of fear. I have a few short scriptures for us to use as our starting point. The first one is Proverbs 29:25. Let's read it together. Here we go. The fear of man lays a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord is safe. Now, it's real short, so let's read it again. The fear of man lays a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord is safe. This verse says that our fears trap us so that we can get caught and destroyed by those fears. I don't think that it is out of line to say from this that our fears are like a dragon lying in wait in order to catch us and to kill us on the roads of our lives. Fear is the name of the dragon in our mind, lying in wait to catch us, to destroy us. There was a psychiatrist by the name of Overstreet, and he really was talking about this dragon of fear. He wrote this: of all the emotional forces that pattern our individual and interpersonal behavior, fear has the most insidious power to make us do what we ought not to do and leave undone what we ought to do. Under its influence and trying to escape its influence, we seem fated to give it yet a stronger hold on us. And the proverb says the fear of man lays a trap. The dragon of fear is a mind killer. It's a creeping death. The dragon of fear, with its two heads of fear and worry or anxiety, causes us to become ineffective in life. It can often bring us down because we get paralyzed or neutralized. Fear preys on us. Let me take a few minutes to describe and identify this dragon that we all face. In childhood, it's the fear of the dark and going to bed. It's the fear of going to school for the first time, or maybe a new school. You know, every year we have a vacation Bible school here, and there are kids that come to this, and you can just watch them, and they are filled with fear. And you could see it by looking at them, and it takes a day or part of that day to ease that fear off. You know, the fear that accompanies a child as they come for the first time. It's a dragon of their mind, and it kind of sits on their shoulder as they come to school, and that fear is overcome with love and care by the people who are working in Vacation Bible School. You know, every Sunday when I have a kids message up here, I've had parents say, you know, well, he's just not ready to come up that far. I tell them, I says, if you really want, sit up close. I realize I might spit on you, but sit up close, because it's a long walk from back there. And you don't have to be as brave when you sit up close for a kid. And it's a simple little thing, but I've noticed it over the years. You know, it's a long walk down these aisles. You see, fear dogs us throughout life. The mother afraid for her children, the man afraid for his business or his job, the husband or wife that is tormented by a dragon of fear that his or her spouse will leave, the fear that something or someone you love will be snatched away, the fear of death, the fear of serious illness, the fear of handicap of some kind. The dragon of fear can stop us cold in our tracks and paralyze us so that we can't accomplish things. The dragon looks down on us and says, you're not going down this road with your life, so turn back. Otherwise, I'll eat you alive. When Roosevelt was president, we have heard that very, very common thing that he said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Now, I know that all fear is not bad. You know, a healthy respect for something is a good kind of fear, like playing with matches or razor blades, maybe it's also a healthy respect for the Lord himself. Healthy fear is a healthy respect for the potential danger in something. But the dragon of fear is a dragon that shoots lightning out of its mouth, and it just paralyzes. You know, this dragon has been described as phobias over the years, and there are a number of phobias out there. Lots of them, actually. And they're all bad, and they all stand like dragons on the roads of life, blocking some area of fulfillment or paralyzes us. There's acrophobia, or the fear of heights. Claustrophobia, which is the fear of being in an enclosed place. There's agoraphobia, the fear of open places. There's neophobia, the fear of the new, anything new. Pathophobia, the fear of disease. Photophobia, the fear of light. Spermophobia, which is the fear of germs or viruses, stuff like that. Then there's the one that Maynard G. Krebs had about 50 years ago in a program that I grew up with, and I got a little clip from it in black and white, and you may recognize Maynard G. Krebs.
Thanks, Mrs. Junior. Talk like that, I feel like I'm home. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right, Mom. I have to go upstairs anyhow and start my homework.
Work.
Maynard, I meant the kind of thing we do at school, not the other kind.
Well, the kind of what?
Work.
Work.
Maynard.
Throughout the series, there would always be a problem with Maynard. This would work. He was played by the guy who later played Gilligan on Gilligan's Island. Maynard G. Krebs had what is known as ergophobia, or the fear of work. I fear that a large number of people in our society today have this fear. Anyway, I was able to discover over 75 different identified and named phobias, including erythrophobia, which is the fear of blushing, and phobophobia, the fear of all things. I'd hate to be one of those people. These are all abnormal. They're irrational fears. Not funny in reality, because if you encounter people that have the real thing, it's tragic. Dragons of the mind, fear that is irrational. Now, we don't need anybody to tell us that we're living in a fearful time, because all you have to do is look around you. Do you see or know anyone who is completely unafraid? I highly doubt it. What about you? What are you afraid of? And if today your fears are minimal, what about that time last year? Or more importantly, what about tomorrow or this coming year? And just by raising up to you the future, we can experience extreme fear, fear of the future. Are you afraid? Of course you are. So am I. So is everybody. We all have fears. See, the dragon of fear is a fact of life. He is sleeping, and if I were to show you other cuts of that particular one in The Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins is sneaking around a sleeping dragon. Sometimes we are sneaking around the dragon of fear in our lives too. Sometimes he's sleeping, and we tiptoe around him, but other times he is wide awake, waiting to kill and to eat us. This dragon is also no respecter of age or position or social status or sex or creed or color. Nobody is immune to his fiery breath. You know, in J.R. Tolkien wrote his classic, The Lord of the Rings, there is a quote in there. It says, it says this: "It is not wise to leave a live dragon out of your calculations. If you live near him, or for that matter, to laugh at live dragons." One physician called fear the most common, most subtle of all human diseases. Fear of the future, fear of danger, fear of people, fear of disease, fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of being disliked, fear of exposure, fear of ridicule, fear of failure, fear of loss. Loss of possessions, loss of position, loss of job, loss of self-esteem, loss of friends, loss of kids, loss of spouse, and loss of your youth. You see, fear paralyzes people. Fear breaks down relationships. Fear destroys community. One man tells this story of his 5-year-old son. One evening when he was ready for bed, the man had gone on a business trip that night. The boy prayed as his mother listened, and he said, "Dear God, help Daddy on his trip." And then he started. There he is driving up that hill, and he just had a flat tire, and he's out changing the tire. And there's a big old snake crawling up closer and closer to him, and it's just about to bite Daddy. "Oh, God, don't let it happen." And the wife told her husband about this incident when he came home, and the boy had worked himself into such a shivering fear over something that had not happened and would not happen that he experienced a huge dragon standing over him named Fear. For the first time, but which we all know very well, don't we? The dragon of fear. Look with me, will you, at the wealthy man. Money in his pockets, money in the bank, money in stocks and bonds and real estate. But he has fear. There's a large dragon standing in front of him. What is he afraid of? Alzheimer's disease. His money, his mansion, his security all mean nothing to him because he is afraid of losing his mind. Life has become a nightmare to him. Decisions are almost impossible. His fear feeds on every hesitation, every missed appointment, every mistake that he makes. He is living in hell before he's even there. For the fears of this man has laid a trap, and he has fallen prey to that trap. Look again. See a woman, a mother of 2 lovely children, wife of a successful and attentive husband who has provided for her a lovely home, financial security, but it all means nothing to her. Why? Because she is afraid of cancer. And there's a dragon which she thinks is sitting outside her house, but is really in her mind. The dragon of fear. Her closest friend died of cancer, and ever since there's been this fear, this black foreboding cloud like a dragon called fear, perched on her doorstep, gnawing on her mind and in her guts. Oh yeah, she's gone to doctors, many of them, but that doesn't satisfy her. They might have missed something. And so her days and her nights are filled with fear because there is this dragon in her mind, which has placed her in a prison in her own life. Look again, and you see the most popular boy in high school or college. He's loud, he's big, he's tops at his school, but he's afraid deep down inside that he's just a big bluff and he really doesn't have what it takes, and he tries to cover it up with loud talk and expansive gestures, but the day will come when he will have to face up to that fear, that dragon in his mind. He'll have to, or be destroyed. And it might be a shattering experience. Now, I could pick up all kinds of faces out of the crowd, but I think you get the picture. We see them everywhere. Fear-ridden people, fear-hindered people, people who are paralyzed in many areas of their lives by this two-headed dragon of fear and worry or anxiety. In fact, the next time you look into the mirror, you might see one of those people. Do you? What are you afraid of? The proverb says, the fear of man lays a snare. It might be better stated, the fears of a man lays a trap for him. In the Bible, the more that you examine the idea of being snared or trapped in Scripture, the more you begin to see that there is a devilish element that is behind the traps that we fall prey to in our lives. Fear is a trap laid by Satan. In 2 Timothy 1:7, there's a statement that is very important in dealing with the dragons of fear and worry, and I have it printed, but let's read it together. For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power and love and self-control. For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power and love and self-control. So what is fear? Fear is a spirit. It says so right here, that the spirit does not come from God. God has not given us a spirit of fear. But instead it says right here that God has given us a spirit of power and love and self-control. And all those three attributes are used to fight this dragon or this spirit of fear. God gives us His power in situations and circumstances in which we feel powerless. He gives us self-control, which allows us to function even in the presence of danger. And the dragon of fear does not overcome us then. Thirdly, he gives us love, which casts out the dragon of fear. Read with me Proverbs 29:25 again, which is at the top here. The fear of man lays a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord will be safe. The fear of man lays a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord is safe. He who trusts in the Lord is safe. Now read with me Psalm 34:4. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Let's read it again. It's short. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. This verse points to the fact that if we seek the Lord, he will deliver us from our fears. Now, if there is a spirit of fear, as 2 Timothy says, then that spirit either comes from inside of us and is part of our human spirit, or it comes from demonic harassment and the chief dragon himself, which is revealed to us in the book of Revelation, Satan, that dragon, he's the serpent. If there is a spirit of fear, a dragon in of our minds, then it needs to be dealt with. 1 John 4:18 tells us how to get rid of this dragon of the mind. Let's read it together. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and he who fears is not perfected in love. There's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. When it comes to slaying the dragon of fear and casting it out, the love of God is the answer. Love crowds out fear. You know, when people get set at ease, more than likely somebody around them is treating them with the kind of respect that they want, and they are set at ease, and respect is a form of love. Love crowds out fear. Fear no longer has a place to live in us. Fear is a dragon of the mind that entraps us and paralyzes us and attempts to kill us, but that dragon is reduced to a lizard through love. You might say, in Christ, all my dragons become lizards. These scriptures give us insight and the ability to overcome the dragon of fear. First, fear is like a dragon that traps us and paralyzes us, and its source is a spirit, who is the dragon himself, Satan the serpent. The way we overcome and slay the dragon is through trusting God with our lives and resting in that truth and using the love of God given to us in Jesus to deal with these things that we all face at some time or other.